Hey y'all, I'm Hope, and today I'm going to be reviewing A House with Good Bones. You might notice that my setup is a little bit different, and I apologize for the probably reduced camera quality here. I am using my webcam, but today I wanted to do something a little bit different because I don't find filming single reviews to be very satisfying, and they end up being very short. I feel like I kind of get rambly. So I wanted to try something a little bit different so I could review this book because I think this book is fantastic and I had a lot of fun reading it, so I definitely want to talk about it. But I thought it would be fun to review this haunted house book while investigating some haunted houses. So I'm going to be playing Phasmo while I review A House with Good Bones for you. And part of the reason that this idea came about was that this is how I review books for my friends. Whenever I've read something and I'm talking to them about it, it very frequently happens when we're playing Phasmo or playing some other kind of horror game or just kind of generally playing games together, because a lot of my friends don't live in the area that I live in, and so that's kind of generally how I end up talking to them about books. At least a couple of them have said that it's amusing to them to listen to me try and talk about something coherently while I'm also playing something that's scary. So we're going to see how this goes, and I think this could be a lot of fun. I just thought this would be a fun thing to do with this particular book as well, since it's, a haunted house story. And yeah, I'm excited about this, and I think let's just go ahead and dive in. Alright, it looks like we're recording now, and I do apologize if you hear any fan noises in the background. I do have my computer's fan turned up quite high, because I obviously don't want my computer overheating while we're doing this. So I've got everything set up, and we're going to be playing in my personal favorite small map, and also we're playing on amateur because I don't want to be dealing with intermediate ghosts while I'm trying to talk. So that's what we're doing today. So go ahead and get loaded in. We'll listen to the radio man with the radio plan, and then we can start.
Right. Check the equipment and get set up before investigating. Whoever was here must have summoned the ghost with a cursed object. Investigate it, but be careful. We don't know what it's capable of.
See, I don't want to investigate the cursed object. Okay, so we're going to be investigating Lisa Miller, who responds to people who are alone and wants me to do some stuff that I don't want to do, so I'm not going to do those, hopefully. And gather up some tools here. I think we're good. Okay, so A House with the Good Bones is a book about Sam Montgomery, who's an archaeoentomologist. She studies bugs at archaeological sites, and at the beginning of the book, she's returning to her childhood home for the first time in several years. She's already spoken to her brother, who said that their mother is behaving oddly, and so she's kind of on leave from her current job, and decides to take this as an opportunity to go back to her childhood home, see if she can figure out why their mother is behaving oddly, that kind of thing. And the other thing that happens right off the bat is she starts to notice, throwing stuff at me already. She starts to notice that the house is looking like it did when she was a kid, and they lived briefly in the house with her grandmother, because the house used to belong to her grandmother, and the house seems to be reverting back to that state, the way that it looked when her grandmother lived there. Sir, please. Or ma'am. And so Sam arrives at home and immediately begins trying to investigate and figure out, what's going on. I feel like that was a really redundant thing I just said, but, there you go. Oh, we got a garage ghost. Let me back up a minute. Let me start at the actual very beginning of the book, because the thing that I really liked right off the bat of this book is that it's set in small town North Carolina. Sam is returning to a very small town that is somewhere close to Siler City, North Carolina. And I immediately love the setting because I actually grew up in small town North Carolina, and it was very familiar. There were little funny comments about the things that people do to entertain themselves when they're living in this kind of rural, isolated area. And there were just a lot of moments in the kind of setting of this book that really reminded me of my own childhood growing up in small town North Carolina. So I really loved the way that the setting was rendered. I really think you can feel the sense of isolation of kind of being out in the middle of nowhere, of having no cell service. I felt like that was really good, and it was both accurate to what it's like living in small town North Carolina, and also, and I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but it was also, I've forgotten how to drop things. It increased the tension, I think, a lot, because so much of this stuff was happening where there's almost no one to call or turn to for help, or like if you could call at all. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you, brain. We have recovered the point, which is that isolation was just really great. Kind of connected to that, I think, was the writing of this book, because there's a very conversational tone to it. It's very informal feeling, and a lot of this book reads like somebody telling you about this weird thing that happened to them. And so I really enjoyed that. I felt like that also kind of added to the small town setting, but it made the book really fun and easy to read. It was really just an enjoyable experience. And I tore through this book in like 3 days, which for me right now is pretty quickly, given that I'm a grad student and I just often struggle to find time to read. And so the really kind of casual conversational tone of this book helped me tear through it, because it was just really fun, really engaging, really easy to read, and I absolutely loved that. It's not like really beautiful prose or anything. It's not like, flowery in any sense of the word, but I think that the writing was really just fun, and I can't think of a better way to describe it than that. A part of it was that there was a ton of humor in this book. It's really, really funny. There's lots of kind of recurring jokes throughout the book. There's lots of moments when Sam reacts in a really funny way, in part due to the fact that she's a scientist. And so a lot of what she was doing throughout the book would be these kind of almost underreactions to scary things happening, because she would be seeing some weird thing happening and just kind of be like, oh, well, there must be an explanation for this. And then she would go off to try and investigate. And so I thought that was really fun. It kind of lent itself to this kind of comedic tone where you're looking at stuff that's happening and going, that's terrifying, but also getting Sam's kind of underreactions to things, and that really made the horror both more horrifying because you kind of know what's going on and she doesn't, but it also made it just really entertaining. And I really enjoyed following Sam as a character. I think she's a really fun protagonist, in part because she is a scientist, and that really informs how she approaches everything in the book. I don't see anything happening here. I think we are no for Gorbs. So that really influences how she reacts to things, and I thought that was an interesting addition to it. And I really also related to Sam as a character because she has a lot of anxiety. She had this thing going on with health anxiety in the book that I thought was well done, that I found particularly relatable for myself. I often struggle with health anxiety myself, and kind of seeing her deal with it. Oh, can you quit honking the car? I am trying to talk. So yeah, she was really relatable, really funny. Another thing I really liked about Sam is that Sam is fat, and that's how she refers to herself in the book. And I really loved her perspective on that and the way that she's written. There's several points where the book kind of acknowledges that, and that's something where, the antagonist of the book tries to kind of hurt her with that. And just Sam's utter confidence in herself and the way that she viewed herself with lots of love and affection and compassion. I really enjoyed that part of Sam's character, that was a part of her story, and the point of the story was that that doesn't define who she is. The things that matter to her are the fact that she's an archaeoentomologist and she's really into bugs, and that she's got this PhD that she's really proud of because she worked really hard for it. And I just really enjoyed that part of Sam's character. I felt like that was really well done. Sam is not the only character I love, though. There are several really great characters. Sam's mom, first of all, just the relationship between the two of them was a lot of fun. And then they also have a neighbor named Phil, who is a handyman. And Phil is great as well. He comes over at various points to, do work on Sam's mother's house. Sam's mother's name is Edie. And so he's like friends with Edie and has been for a while, and he comes over and does work for her. There's also a neighbor named Gail who's really cool. There's just a lot of really great side characters. I feel like they're not like 100% fully rounded, but it's a pretty short book as well, and they all are entertaining in their own way. They all have some sort of kind of quirk about their personality that just made them really fun to read about, and I really enjoyed that the way that they each kind of reacted to what was going on. Speaking of what is going on, I think that's kind of the next thing I want to talk about, because this is a haunted house story, so there is obviously a haunted house, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that, one, because of the title, and two, you know that something is up at the house very early in the book. Like, within the first couple of chapters, weird things are happening that can't really be explained, and so you know very quickly going in that the house is haunted, and you're just kind of waiting for Sam to catch up and to, like, see her figure that out for herself, which I think is the entertaining part of the mystery, is watching Sam try to come to the conclusion, or slowly come to the conclusion, that the house is haunted, because she's so scientifically minded that that's, like, not immediately what she thinks. She's always looking for, like, some other explanation that might allow her to keep believing that that isn't true. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think that the stuff that's happening in the house is really creepy. A lot of the stuff that she uncovers as she's going along is really spooky. And I found myself both, like, on one hand laughing because of something that Sam had said, or something one of the other characters had said, or some kind of contradiction between, like, what was happening and the tone. But I was also finding myself getting, like, really tense. Also, we're going to do a really upsetting thing real quick. Hang on. Are you here? Are you friendly? Are you French? Where are you? Are you here? Are you friendly? Where are you? Are you here? Yeah, I don't think it's... We don't seem to be getting any kind of spirit box, so... We're having a weirdly difficult time understanding me, which is interesting. We haven't had freezing temperatures. Did we have any ghost writing? No ghost writing so far. Quit trying to shut the door on me. Where was I? Okay, yeah, so in terms of the things that are happening in the house, there is a spirit haunting the house, and I won't tell you too much about, like, what's going on with that, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about this was that I think that the antagonist for the story is viewed with a really strong sense of compassion and humanity. There was this sense that the thing haunting the house isn't evil. It's a very complicated antagonist, and it has... I don't know, I just try to figure out how to say this without spoiling anything. The antagonist is someone that we learn about across the story, and as we're learning more about them, we really learn about their childhood and about how they came to be the person that they were. We learn about how they interact with others, and it just... I was really appreciating the way that this entity was being portrayed, not as kind of evil or just, like, cruel for the sake of being cruel, but, like, just being viewed with a lot of humanity and kind of looking at the dark side of family and the legacy that they leave on us. And I think that it was just really a fascinating exploration of family, particularly. I think you get a little bit of nature versus nurture in there as well, because you have characters who have experienced some pretty horrible things, and there's, like, various different ways that they react to that. And so I think that is kind of an interesting conversation in the story as well, but so much of it is just rooted in the way that the antagonist is treated as being basically worthy of compassion and worthy of understanding, and I thought that was just really really compelling, because I think it would have been less good of a story if the antagonist had been just, like, something that was evil for the sake of being evil. And so I really enjoyed that part of the story as well. That kind of leads into, I think I've already kind of said this, but the horror elements of this book were just like really, really good for me. I think if you like spooky houses, you're just gonna like this. Oh, there he went. It's Goryo. We got a Goryo in this house. Lisa Miller is a Goryo. We could have stood here all day trying to figure that out. But this actually works really well because I think I'm kind of coming into my last point, which is that I think the horror here was really well done. There's a very slow build of tension across the story. We really start out with like a few kind of creepy things happening, some unsettling things starting to go wrong in the house, Sam kind of experiencing things and trying to write them off, but kind of this build up that I think was really well paced. There was never a point where I felt like, okay, can something happen now? This is boring. But it also didn't feel like things were happening too quickly. It didn't feel like we were just kind of being launched headfirst into a ton of stuff happening. There was a really nice and well-paced build-up of creepiness across, especially like the first, I want to say 3/4 of the story, so that by the time we get to the ending, which is quite intense, we've started to have lots of puzzle pieces to put together. We're presented with like a lot of different possibilities for what could be happening, and I feel like all of that just was well paced, really enjoyable, and then the ending is quite intense, and I don't feel like it's rushed. I think it's pretty well done. It is it's one of those books where like you get a ways into the mystery and then shit hits the fan. You kind of feel like, okay, we've reached a point where we know what's going on, or we feel like we know what's going on, and then shit hits the fan and we kind of get another twist, another thing turned over on us that we weren't expecting. At least that was how I experienced it, and I really enjoyed that. I felt like the ending was really fun. It kind of recontextualized some of what had already happened, but offered some new extra creepy things that I really enjoyed and found very creepy and very engaging. So overall, I absolutely loved this book. I did take off a 1/2 star, and I will tell you about that while we wait for this to take us back to the loading screen, see if we were right. I took off 1/2 star for 2 small things. One is that we're given a time frame for when the house is begun to be haunted, and we never find out why that time frame is a thing. We were correct. It's a Goryo. Hooray. Goryos I often have trouble with. But we never find out what the time frame is, or we find out what the time frame is. Let me rephrase that. We never find out why that time frame is a thing, because things have been normal up until like X time, and then we never find out why that time. Why did this start? Because there's been all of this time since the mother has been living in the house that nothing has happened. So, like, why did this start now? We never really get a firm answer for that, which I would have really liked because it was brought up. It felt significant in the way that it was brought up, and so I really wanted to kind of understand what had changed. And then the other thing that caused me to take off a little 1/2 star was that there are a few of the recurring jokes which I did think were funny. They get used just like maybe one too many times, and so there were a couple of points where I was like, okay, yes, we've made this joke, it's funny, let's move on. And so there were a few instances of that where I just like wanted it to kind of drop one of those jokes and just like let it lie. But other than that, I thought this was a really well-written, fun, fast read. I had a great time. I was really creeped out for most of the book. I guess one thing to note is that the main character is an archaeoentomologist, so bugs are like a big thing in this book. So if you don't like bugs, but you want to be scared, this might be a book for you. If you don't like bugs and you don't want to be scared of bugs, maybe not. But I thought that was a really interesting aspect as well, that we got so much of like the horror and everything was really tied into Sam's background as an archaeoentomologist. I thought that was used in a really interesting way. Alright, well that's all I have for you today. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know down in the comments what you think of this, if this was fun, if this was annoying. I definitely want to know your thoughts, and I know this could be kind of off-putting for some viewers, so like definitely let me know what you think down in the comments. I would love to have your feedback, and I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, so there is more content coming soon, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.